Good morning. I am Officer Janae Cook, and on behalf of Mayor Joe Hogsett, Chief Randall Taylor, and the men and women of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, I would like to welcome you to the 2021 IMPD Honor Awards program. We are here today to recognize and honor individual officers, IMPD units, and several citizens who throughout the past year have gone above and beyond the call of duty. Some of the incidents you will hear today are examples of the hard work and dedication we see in our officers and the community each and every day. In the Public Information Office, we try to recognize and share with the community the hard work and dedication that all 1,600 plus officers who work for IMPD do throughout the year on our social media platforms. Today, we will honor those whose acts stood out and impacted others. If we could all stand for the posting of colors by the Chief's Honor Guard.
Color, Harry, color. 4 words.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, post. Present. Order. Ready, peace. 4 words. Left, peace. Forward.
Please be seated. At this time, I would like to welcome IMPD Chaplain Arnold to the podium for our invocation.
Let's bow our heads. Father, we just want to come to you grateful this morning for this awesome day that you made. Also grateful, Lord, for some awesome men and women who have honored the citizens of Indianapolis and honored IMPD and gave all of themselves. I pray you'd put your blessings on them, on their families today as we get to honor them. Pray you'd bless our command staff and all of IMPD today, and we ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Unfortunately, the mayor nor a representative of his office will be able to attend today due to a funeral for an IFD fireman. At this time, I would like to welcome Chief Randall to the podium for remarks.
Good morning. You know, these are the good times. You know, nothing I think is more pleasurable, either to myself or the staff, is than when we come together for these types of events and promotions. To the average person, if they were to read over all of the accolades, all the summaries of the different things that you as members of IMPD and the public, the citizens, did over the past year, it would truly be overwhelming. They wouldn't understand really how you have the time, how you have the courage, how you have the wherewithal to do the things that you do. I have to admit, even when I'm reading through them, I'm like, holy cow, it's incredible. But then I think over the 34 years of law enforcement that I've completed, it's not surprising what you do. I've said before, during the academy, when they're first in the academy, you guys are cut a little bit different. You're made different, both men and women. You have within you the ability to stay calm in incredible situations. That's not something just anyone can do. There's really only 1,600 plus of us for a reason. You know, in some jobs, and granted, I'll acknowledge you don't get paid what you deserve, but the pay isn't terrible. But not everybody can do it. If everyone could, we would have a department probably of 3,000, but we don't. We have you, and I'm thankful for that. You know, my wife sent me a text the other day. Unfortunately, it's on my other phone, so I'll tear the quote up that she sent me. But it basically said, as you go and you lead in such a way that people would voluntarily follow you regardless of your rank. Now, I didn't ask her why she sent that to me. I don't know that I want to know. But in this situation, I think it's a great quote, because whether you are a patrolman, patrol person, or a sergeant, or lieutenant, captain, major, what have you, you guys are leading in such a way that people would voluntarily follow you without a rank behind it. And that's an incredible thing. For the families that are here, you probably already know that your significant other, father, brother, sister, whatever they are to you, is different. And at this time, when we're bringing forth awards, we're recognizing that in a small way, but we're recognizing that they are special and they are different and they do incredible things. I thank you for that. I'm always grateful to come after the invocation, because in the invocation, you're being prayed for. But not only in that invocation, you're prayed for every day for your safety, for your ability to lead your families and have times with your families is important to me. At the end of your career, I don't want you to look back on it and regret it in any kind of way. I'm hoping that whenever your career is over, you're looking back and realizing all the incredible things you did for total strangers, but also what you did to make this city the best that it can be. In these times, in this year, I've thought a lot about you, about how to lead you, about what you need, any ways that I can encourage you and support you. I'll continue to do that because you're truly worth it. I thank you for all the work that you do, and for the families, I thank you as well. Thank you.
Every day, officers and citizens in our community demonstrate examples of valor, bravery, and merit. When responding to runs, each of these traits may be shown in different ways, but in the end, their actions are very important to the people impacted. Impd works with our local media partners to share these stories with our community. Here today to help us share the stories of the officers who are receiving awards are two well-known community members. Please help me welcome Ms. Courtney Crown of Fox 59 and Mr. Rafael Sanchez of WRTV6 to our awards ceremony.
I'm usually the short one. Good morning. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
So I want to first thank Officer Simone Burris, who gave Courtney and I the book of Matthew. And in this book, a lot of pages, a lot of reasons to celebrate, many reasons to honor many of you in this room and your families. Courtney and I ask for your forgiveness as we don't know all of your names. 1,700 of you strong that serve our city every single day. So on occasion, if you wonder, what the heck was that? We'll probably say your name in Spanish or a different language other than your given name, because we tried our very best to cross-reference and to get them right. It is our goal to get your names right. You deserve that. But unfortunately, we don't know all of you, so on occasion you may hear me say your name in Spanish. So forgiveness, forgiveness. On occasion, we will also remind you that because of the number of officers in this room dedicated, let the baby sing. It's all good. That's good. That's good stuff. Don't leave the room. I'd rather hear that than a lot of other things. So please leave the baby in the room. There are officers in the room that are in covert operations. So Courtney and I will ask you to please, to our media friends, we'll give you enough time to turn off cameras. We do not want any social media of any kind. Facebook, TikTok, you name it, what's up? So please, we ask that when we say no cameras, that there is no photography of any kind whatsoever. We are also working today, so on occasion you may see me hold up my phone to take a picture of those people that are not in covert operations. I am not Christmas shopping. I am not ignoring you. I'm not being disrespectful. I am actually working so that later today I can put a story together. We also have to tweet and blah, 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 right? So when we're doing this here and she's talking, don't say that fool was talking to his wife. No, I'm actually working, so please keep that in mind. This is my 5th year with you. I've been doing this since 2017. Simone gave me a lot of words to read in English, so I chose to break from the script just a little bit to tell you that hoy celebramos su sacrificio. Hoy celebramos su dedicación, la suya y de sus familias, en mantener la paz en nuestros vecindarios. Today we celebrate your sacrifice. We celebrate your hard work, your dedication, that of you and your families to make sure that our city remains safe every single day. And for that, we are thankful. I come here selfishly today. This morning, my sister in Miami-Dade County, who is a community police officer, will go off to work. My other sister, who I call the badass, is a corrections officer at Rikers Island Prison in New York City. So I come here selfishly, wanting to be here today. So I thank you, and just like they, you say it right, they are professionals, just like you. And so today we celebrate all of them, not only in this room, but all those that, whether either blue or green or brown, we thank them for their service. Please welcome my colleague, Courtney Crown.
Thank you, Rafael. Well, guys, I have to say I really did just freak out whenever Officer Burris had asked me to MC this event, just because it also gave me an opportunity to just say thank you. I feel this in my heart every day when I go to work, but I haven't had the opportunity to stand in front of so many of you and just say thank you. Thank you for your professionalism. Thank you for showing up every day. I know so often people like Rafael and myself are behind that yellow tape, knowing full well that you all are inside of the yellow tape, and I can't even imagine, but you're on my heart, you're in my prayers every single day. And I know that this year the city has asked a lot of all of you, and there has never been one time that I ever heard any officer say anything negative, and it has to be hard to constantly be met with, hey, we need you to do this differently, we need you to do that differently, and every single time you took it with humility, you took it with grace, and you just had patience for all of us, and we just really appreciate it. And I have to say thank you to our wonderful PIOs. I'm sure you guys can all imagine as you're standing out there at the scenes with us how annoying we can be. Just maximize that by 100, and that's how annoying we are to the PIOs, but they're wonderful and we really appreciate it. And finally, I just want to thank all of the family members here. Every single night or every single morning you kiss your loved one goodbye. by, you send them out so that they can protect people who they don't know, who they'll never maybe meet again, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I don't have to tell this group how hard this year has been, but I just thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of our city for continuing to put on the uniform, continuing to pin on the badge, and showing up every day. We really, really appreciate it. So with that, I'll get started with the Certificate of Appreciation. A certificate of appreciation is awarded to citizens or members of other law enforcement agencies who renders valuable or courageous assistance to members of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. The action performed should be one that clearly exemplifies the citizen's unselfish act as one that we normally do not expect from our citizenry. The citizen will be publicly honored by the department and presented with a certificate during this annual awards ceremony. So the Certificate of Appreciation goes to Miss Valerie Doe and Hazel Bacon. IMPD officers were called to the Mary Evelyn Castle Learning Center on April 30th of this year regarding a woman shot in the parking lot. This started as a domestic dispute between the mother and father of a student. The woman's estranged husband blocked her in, got out of his vehicle with a handgun, and forced her to get out. As her child was in the back seat, the man shot her. She ran inside the building as he fired more shots, hitting her. And students waiting outside saw this whole thing unfold and were traumatized. Staff quickly worked to protect the kids until medics and police arrived. Hazel Bacon was inside the school at the time and immediately rushed to unlock the door, allowing all children, staff, and the woman to run inside. Even though she knew the shooter would see her, she quickly locked the door and began caring for the children. Valerie Doe was working at the front desk that day. As Valerie heard the person shot was in the playroom, her trauma kit training kicked in. She immediately began helping the victim by slowing the bleeding, and that saved her life. IMPD says because of Hazel and Valerie's quick and selfless actions, no one else was injured and the woman survived. IMPD is honored to present you both with a Certificate of Appreciation.
On this Friday, we also grant a Certificate of Appreciation to the following: Alicia Bosgard, Drenda Bell, Sherry Maharey, Jordan McVie, Jessica Rand, Michelle Wilbrandt, all registered nurses. Eskenazi Center of Hope nurses, they perform legal blood draws for impaired driving when requested by DUI enforcement officers. They respond to requests for depositions, suppression hearings, as well as trials. Work, of course, the hours vary, and that also requires them to testify in court outside of their normal workdays. In addition, they also collect evidence for IMPD's aggravated assault, homicide detectives, sex crimes detectives, and any other ongoing investigation requiring forensic examinations of victims, as well as suspects, and prepare reports for investigative purposes. The nurses provide the prosecutor's office with reports and case preparation for the appropriate criminal charges. The Center of Hope nurses also provide the resources right here in Indianapolis for those suspects and victims who may be battling mental health issues or substance abuse issues. Within the past year, of course, of many challenges, these nurses before you have continued to be a reliable partner to IMPD in serving the community and should be recognized for their service. So on this Friday, IMPD is honored to present each one of these registered nurses with a Certificate of Appreciation. The unit citation is awarded based on the unit's overall performance in the recognition of services rendered to the department or right here to the community. The unit's performance should be one that clearly demonstrates your commitment to accomplishing the unit's goals. and exemplifies the traditions of IMPD in their dedication by going above and beyond the requirements of their normal assignment. I ask that you please turn off your cameras as we present this first unit citation. The unit citation, Courtney, is for you.
The East District Detectives, Master Detectives Jerry Pullings, Wyone Hale, Detectives Joel Ryerson, Alfred Gray, Michael Roach, Jonathan Berger, Eric Rosenbaum, Natalie Beatley, Michael Leary, Heidi Weiss, Jason Reitz, Marvin Bankhead Jr., Michael Tharp, Matthew Churchman, Tracy Keithley, and Jerry Torres. IMPD says during the height of the pandemic, this unit shined. During the pandemic, they were assigned more than 1,800 cases, and they never missed a call out or refused to respond for fear of contracting COVID-19. Without decreasing their caseloads, they still managed to complete 238 hours of training. This unit also worked in the PAO role, covering runs over the phone to help the uniform officers. This unit is more than coworkers, they are family. Through personal hardships, they support each other through their shifts. They help comfort other officers who have experienced traumatic events to help them move forward despite any depression or anxiety they may be enduring. Each person they helped credited the detectives with showing them brotherhood, supporting them, and helping them to continue to want to serve in this honorable career with a renewed passion. This department says there are not enough words to describe the greatness of this unit, and because of all of this and more, the IMPD is honored to present the East District Detectives with a unit citation.
I do ask, as we present the next award, the unit citation for the East District Flex Team, that you please turn off your cameras.
Routinely, this team rises to and exceeds any task they are given. They routinely supply Southwest officers with food, drinks, and snacks from generous donors. The CRU team has built positive relationships with neighborhood associations, crime watch groups, businesses, and more. While other districts have more officers working in community relations, the Southwest team does more with less. This team helped write, submit, and received $50,000 worth of grant money in order to buy new bikes and repair a budget to conduct bike patrols around local playgrounds and preschools. They have taken on the Decatur Township Drug-Free Coalition to help teach students and parents the dangers of drug use. They have conducted dozens of active shooter trainings throughout our city and increased crime watch groups to 175 on the district during the pandemic. For your outstanding devotion and determination to improving police-community partnerships, the IMPD is honored to present the Southwest District CRU with a unit citation.
Our next unit citation, North District, CRU. Master Patrol Officer Jerome Harrison and John Lee. Officer Robin Frazier and Tiffany Maston. Throughout the year, this unit has been tasked and challenged in several ways. The unit has collectively worked as a team to accomplish many of its goals. They have a number of responsibilities, just like many of you do as well. This team, their responsibilities include the Homeless Initiative, nuisance abatement, trespass concern, traffic enforcement, Officer of the Month preparation, and many more things. Officers of the unit have created bonds with entities such as the Midwest Food Bank, the minority clergy of the district, the Office of Public Health and Domestic Violence Partnerships. Officers have also engaged the community in ways which are meaningful, such as the foot and bike patrols, assisting at food pantries, neighborhood cleanups, and simply just being a part of the conversations that are needed in those neighborhoods. Many times, CRU has been asked to provide stats. My response to this has been unwavering, unlike the VCT and VIRT units. Through the chain of command, North CRU is tasked with a variety of assignments. And these assignments involve attending a number of events, as I just mentioned. But it also means thinking outside of the box in the hopes of finding that connection between the police and the public. As an example of this, there was a collaboration effort of North CRU, the clergy, and IMPD Academy staff members. Members of the local clergy were invited to participate in a scenario based on use of force situations. And after learning and just getting a small piece of that education, they were able to determine just really how hard your jobs are every single day. It was all about awareness, and this team brought that to light. CRU officers also maintain bicycles at North District. They also handle social media, the ride-alongs, background checks, scheduling, all kinds of things that make the operation run every single day. Again, showing the humans behind the badge. The humans behind the badge. Many may just say they're simply just doing their job. They get paid to do that. However, their versatility shows every day and pays off in ways that are immeasurable and are immense. And for that, they are thanked. And for that and many reasons, on this Friday, IMPD is honored to present your North District CRU with this Unit Citation Award.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you. All right, number 11 unit citation, the IMPD Reserves. Volunteer officers Freddie Edwards Jr., William Norlock, Daniel Cherry, Timothy Butler, Roger Gammon, Michael Martin, Michael Hornaday, Gregory West, Kenneth Pavin, Rodolfo Tavares, Larry Taylor, Charles Martin, Robert Campbell, Daryl Campbell, Daryl Miller, Christopher Smith, Richard Pate, Adam Perkins, Dwayne Parks, Michael Jackson, Webster Peterson, Bradley Himes, Patrick Allen, Sharon Munch, Larry Hurst, Darren Jones, Stephen Lucid, Marlon Miner, Thomas Nolan, Larry Lanigan, Joseph Simmons, and Robert Carroll Jr. Sergeants James Skirvin, Robert Dodd, Don Higgins, Mark Minano, Joseph Ford, Craig Silver, Alejandro Lastra, Robert Williams, Michael Walton, Alan Driver Sr., Edwin Andreessen, Jack Simpson, Paul Watkins Sr., Pascal Arnez, Paul Wilson, Gerald Malshi, Eugene Smith, and Lieutenants Jim Wampler, James Dora Jr., Kevin Bandy, Thomas Black II, Paul Suiters, and professional staff member Sarah Woodson. The Reserve Unit demonstrated extraordinary commitment and volunteerism during the 2021 NCAA March Madness College Basketball Tournament. The Reserve Unit requires officers work a minimum of 28 hours per month during public events like the Indianapolis 500 or by filling personnel shortages. Many Reserve members exceed the minimum hours nearly every month. This 55-man team worked over 200 shifts between March 15th and April 5th. Considering a full-time IMPD officer earns a minimum of $36 per hour, the Reserve Unit saved taxpayers more than $43,000 in just that short time period alone. Plus, it kept our police officers on the streets to fight crime. The women and men of this unit volunteered to dedicate a great deal of time to our city. For these reasons and more, IMPD is honored to present the IMPD Reserves with a unit citation.
Our next unit citation award, as we honor the members of the Behavior Health Science Unit. Deputy Chief Catherine Cummins, Lieutenant Aaron Snyder, Sergeant Lance Darden, Detective Christopher Carlson, Detective Sheila McNeil, Detective Bradley Hinshaw, Robert Robinson, Ethan McGivern, Tracy Lomax, Joshua Morgan, David Drain, Zachary Carver, Jennifer Cianelli, Daniel Moreland, Cynthia Ames, Cynthia Schomeyer, Stefania Lovell, Cynthia Donnell, Brooke Durigan, Craig Caniff, John Lurkins, Tiffany Fagan, Mark Gresser, and Linda Lynn. Since its inception in 2016, this unit with IMPD has partnered with several and served citizens with distinction. They partnered with licensed clinicians from Eskenazi Health. The unit has followed up on more than 10,000 immediate detentions and hundreds of active runs. The unit has partnered with dozens of community partners and agencies and medical facilities to get individuals living with mental health issues connected with the most appropriate services. They've also helped other entities such as the FBI and Buckingham Palace and countless of treatment facilities and courts, just to name a few, to get them connected, They've been recognized by national media, such as NBC News's Lester Holt and local TV and newspaper articles and radio stations. They've really established their footprint within the community by supplying much needed and necessary services as well as resources. So on this day, IMPD is honored to present the IMPD Behavioral Health Services Unit with a unit citation.
The Medal of Merit is awarded to an officer for an outstanding accomplishment that has improved the operation of the department. The action performed should be one that clearly demonstrates the officer has gone above and beyond the requirements of his normal assignment to contribute to a more effective police service or outstanding police work, which has brought a great credit to the department involving a case of unusual public interest.
So Courtney, let's start with this Medal of Merit with two amazing Okay, paparazzi, got that? Commander Waller, you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. The Medal of Merit to Master Patrolman Jerome Harrison and Sergeant Anthony Patterson. So, these guys became frustrated with the narrative of public opinion. You've heard it. Where is the accountability for the citizen? Where is that? They wanted to know. As a local pastor himself, he felt the need to figure that out and say, how can we make this better? So Master Patrolman Harrison and Sergeant Patterson, they worked together to create an event that featured a classroom portion that involved basic laws and policies surrounding the use of force. The lecture was designed to lay down the foundation and prepare the pastors for the practical part of this training. So the class was split in half down the line so that pastors cycled through 4 different scenarios. First, all participants did a firearms training simulator. They call that FATS. Okay. All right. That scenario required that they articulate their actions and be held to the case known as Graham versus Connor. Then, of course, they were put in the fire and made them answer the court of popular opinion as well. Next, CRU Academy personnel and officers from middle and late shifts acted out life scenarios and tested the pastor's decision-making during a rapidly evolving incident. Now, the pastors, they were given limited information from a simulated dispatcher, then they were sent off to handle the run. In many of the scenarios, the pastors, almost all, used lethal force. Every pastor was overwhelmed by all the moving parts and pieces, the complexities of what you have to do in real life with less time. Most were overcome by the speed at which officers are required to make that split-second decision. Even if it is a split second, it may be even less than that. Comments heard from this group were as follows. Quote, "It is not as clear-cut as I thought." Another pastor said, "I didn't see the gun." Another said, "I let my guard down. I shot him because he was walking towards me. I saw that it was a phone." The pastor said that. Now, this training was not put on just to bring pastors in for a show and tell, but it was given to them to give them the exposure, to give them the real stuff, to put what you do in context every single day. Because for you, it's not a simulation. It is real life every single day. And for you, you may have less than a half second to react. The pastors did leave that training put on by these gentlemen with a new perspective. They learned not to make an immediate judgment, imagine that, because something looks bad or may seem bad in a 15-second clip on social media or maybe even on the news. What they accomplished brings great credit to their uniform and the people that they serve with every single day. There is no single incident to highlight. Rather, each use of force, as you know, is scrutinized by the press. It is scrutinized by the public. And so these gentlemen went above and beyond in trying to show, again, beyond the badge and to bridge that gap between public perception and the realities that you face every single day. So on this Friday, IMPD is honored to present these two officers, and officer and a sergeant, I understand, with a Medal of Merit. Our next Medal of Merit involves something that is really outstanding in the sense that it's not seen very much in our state, and this officer, a member of your team, is part of something that really has, that is testing state law. And I hope that we recognize that he did it with great ease and bringing honor to you, his family, and those that he serves with. This is Officer Gary Smith, Jr. And the state had passed a new law calling dealing causing death. And so Gary was called to this overdose investigation at the time. And the family showed Gary the text of the person from whom the person had bought the narcotics from. So under the new law, Gary could do his thing. which he could not do previously, right? He could look at the text and try to figure out who is the fool, my words, who is the fool on the other side. He was able to identify the dealer based on, love the sound effects. It's like someone's texting me. He was able to identify the dealer on the other side because state law allowed him to do so. He worked hard on this case, tracking down the dealer, getting the information, and bringing it all together. This under a new state law given to law enforcement, giving you the ability to take it one step further, and he did that. Due to his diligent and meticulous work, this investigation was the first case of its kind right here in Marion County. It is also now the first conviction secured for this type of crime in Marion County. And so, Officer Smith, without your quick thinking at the crime scene, without your hard work and your commitment to this case and following through from beginning to end, and now what you have done here in Indianapolis is being used to set up training for other officers across the state based on what you did on that day. Without a doubt, IMPD is honored on this day to present you with a Medal of Merit.
All right, I'd like to invite up Master Detective Jerry Pullings for the Medal of Merit. Detective Jerry Pullings conducted a large investigation involving suspects stealing used cooking oil in multiple states, including right here in Indiana, right here in Indianapolis. On April 6th, Detective Pullings was requested to get involved in this investigation. Detective Pullings learned the suspects were stealing oil from legitimate companies across multiple states. On April 6th, he was conducting surveillance in Indy alongside other investigators when they saw a person who matched the suspect description. Then he saw the suspect at a second location stealing hundreds of dollars more worth of used oil. In total, there were 8 thefts occurring during Detective Pullings' investigation. He was able to get all of those victims in all of those cases to cooperate and pulled in retired police officers and security officers to help him surveil. They found the suspect did have a contract to pump the used oil, but was over-pumping and therefore stealing. The business owners were thrilled at the level of assistance and cooperation they got from the IMPD, but specifically from Detective Pullings. Detective Pullings went above and beyond to make the case easier to investigate and present to the prosecutor's office. For that reason and more, IMPD is honored to present you with the Medal of Merit.
Detective Tracy Lomax, Medal of Merit, and her posse. Detective Lomax has proven to be an invaluable resource for dealing with individuals in crisis. There have been a number of those crises of repeat 911 callers on Southwest late shift. The decline in those calls can be attributed to the efforts of him and his team members. Detective Lomax has further improved officer safety on Southwest District by connecting appropriate services to those individuals having a mental health crisis. This detective, like many of you in the room, his efforts help improve the quality of life in Indianapolis, especially for those suffering from a mental illness. Maybe it's their family members, or maybe it's their neighbors as well that need the help. The entire Southwest District appreciates the work you've accomplished, and so on this Friday, Detective Lomax, the department is honored to present to you the Medal of Merit.
And we're moving on to the Medal of Bravery. The Medal of Bravery is awarded to an officer for an act that places the officer in personal danger during the saving of a human life. The action performed should be one that clearly demonstrates the officer's extreme courage, ability, and willingness to act while consciously facing a risk of personal danger.
So I want to take you back to March 28th, 2021. So officers Michael Hill, Lewis Warren, and Ronald Vest, right there. They were dispatched to meet a female involved in a domestic violence situation near a church at Tremont and Morris. They arrived, they met the female there. She had been severely beaten over a period of 12 hours before she was able to flee her attacker. They interviewed the victim. The victim reported that she was assaulted at 1210 South Mount Street. So the officers, they asked for some backup. When they got to the scene, there was no response at the door. Officer Warren sought a warrant from detectives. So he held the perimeter, right, waiting to do his thing. But then he noticed there was smoke coming out of the home, from the eaves of the home. And the smoke began to build up. The fire department was called in. And they warned, listen, you don't want to go in there right now because you could sustain injuries to yourself. And we have no idea what's happening indoors. So the decision was made that the officers would go through the front door with IFD behind them, with hoses and fire extinguishers as the fire began to grow. Officer Vest, he obtained 2 keys to the locks to the front doors. They unlocked that door, but it was barricaded by a couch. The smoke kept smoldering. IFD attacked the fire, and they were able to put it out. But there was still heavy smoke present as they continued to do their job. Ultimately, that suspect was found located in the back room, succumbed to the heavy smoke. He was deceased. These officers on that day, like many of you, displayed extreme bravery with their actions by entering that home and just finishing the case through. Their focus had changed from first wanting to apprehend a domestic batterer to trying to save a life, and not allowing that home on fire to stop them from their overall mission. So on this Friday, we present Officers Hill, Warren, and Vest with a Medal of Bravery.
The next Medal of Bravery goes to Officers Austin Gray and Xavier Smith. Officer Austin Gray and Officer Xavier Smith came face to face with a suspected murderer moments after homicide occurred on July the 11th. They were dispatched to a stabbing on Constitution Drive, and dispatchers told them a witness could hear a woman yelling from inside the apartment as a man was stabbing her. After they arrived at the home, Officer Gray saw the man holding a knife inside the apartment with blood all over the walls. He told fellow officers on the other side of the home that he saw the suspect. As the officers entered with weapons drawn, they ordered the man to drop the knife. He complied, but he did not get on the ground. Officer Gray communicated that he was switching over to hands as the other officers held lethal cover. Officer Gray grabbed the suspect, put him on the ground, and handcuffed him, while Officer Smith grabbed the second knife before the suspect could get a hold of it. Unfortunately, they did find the victim dead in the back bedroom. Officer Gray and Officer Smith made a brave decision to force entry into that apartment, not knowing what that suspect would do. They went directly into harm's way in hopes of saving that woman. Furthermore, Officer Gray demonstrated outstanding leadership by taking control of the scene. This is one of the many brave and heroic deeds performed by IMPD officers every single day. And for this reason and many more, IMPD is honored to present them both with a Medal of Bravery.
Our next Medal of Bravery, awarded to Sergeant Mark Klon, Officers Clyde Ashby, John Vaught, Jacob Scheid, Christian Gehring, and Lane Cooper. This is February 24th, 2021. It was just after 2 o'clock on North District. And the officers, they received a call that unfortunately has become all too frequent in our city. A person had been shot. However, this became more dynamic as more details came in. Officers arrived to find the victim lying in the street, and the shooter, potentially in the home, was armed with a rifle. The officers, they set up a perimeter, and they set in motion a plan to load and go in an attempt to rescue the victim and get her medical care. This team of professionals approached the victim while having only minimal cover. They took a tremendous risk of being fired upon by an unknown assailant who had already demonstrated a callousness, a depravity towards human life. The officers grabbed the victim, placed her in the back seat of the rescue vehicle, while other officers provided cover. There was no hesitation, not one, for these officers to act. Their dedication to their profession, to their community, and their valor in the face of danger is a demonstration of true heroes. And because of this, IMPD is honored to present all of you with a Medal of Bravery.
Next, we have the Medal of Bravery for Officers Cassandra Crawley and Robert Camphor. The Certificate of Commendation for Officers Isaac Hess, Chelsea Holliday, Jack Straub III, Marky Deloney, Probationary Officer Casey Seaton, Sergeant Anthony Patterson, and MCSO PSC Control Operator Caitlin Purcell. Well, thank God Officers Cassandra Crawley and Robert Camphor were at the time they were when all of this happened on February 12th. As Officers Crawley and Camphor walked into roll call, they heard a woman screaming hysterically, and they noticed a head-on collision on East 30th Street. Officer Crawley immediately ran over to administer first aid to several victims suffering from serious injuries. At the same time, Officer Camphor drove his vehicle over to block the traffic. As one of the vehicles caught fire, the officers began physically pulling the passengers out of both vehicles to safety. Officers Holliday, Hess, Deloney, Straub, and Seaton quickly arrived and began gathering information and caring for the victims while IFD worked to extinguish the fire. Then the mother of a child suffering from a head wound became hysterical. Officer Straub quickly intervened to calm her down so the medics could do their work. Officer Seaton began managing the scene, making sure everyone had what they needed. These officers brought a ton of calm into chaos. During this incident, Control Operator Caitlin Purcell kept a calm demeanor as officers requested information and services over the radio. She didn't miss a beat as she communicated with numerous agencies. Officers Camphor and Hess inhaled toxic smoke flames and fumes from the fire and had to go to the hospital for treatment. The quick action and bravery saved lives on February 12th. Everyone set aside their own personal safety to protect people they never met. Every person involved is expected to survive and fully recover. For these reasons and more, IMPD is honored to present the Medal of Bravery to Officers Crawley and Camphor. And the following officers received the Certificate of Commendation: Hess, Holliday, Straub III, Deloney, Seaton, Patterson, and Control Operator Purcell. Medal of Valor. The Medal of Valor is awarded to an officer for an act that exemplifies exceptional heroism or courage upon being confronted by a potentially dangerous adversary. The recipient must demonstrate exceptional courage by performing a voluntary course of action in an extremely dangerous situation while at risk of serious bodily injury. The first Medal of Valor goes to Sergeant Frederick Lancer, Officers Nicholas Snow, Corey Shin, and Christopher Hester. On May 29th, Northwest Middle Shift officers were dispatched to a shooting. Officers saw the suspect leaving the scene, and the suspect started firing at officers as they began to run after him. The Violence Reduction Team unit members were working to set up to intercept and assist with the pursuit. Sergeant Lancer, Officer Snow, and Officer Hester and Officer Shin staged close to the area of pursuit and joined without any hesitation. Officers pursued the suspect until he stopped in front of 1651 West 30th Street, and Sergeant Lancer immediately exited the car, took cover, grabbed his rifle as the suspect began firing at officers. Bullets even hit Sergeant Lancer's vehicle. Officers Shin, Hester, and Snow exited the vehicle and returned fire, striking the suspect. Then officers immediately took the suspect into custody and provided first aid until medics arrived. Their exceptional courage in an extremely dangerous situation is the reason IMPD is honored to present them with the Medal of Valor.
For our next Medal of Honor, we ask that no cameras be on. So as you can imagine, we're going to take just a slight pause because we've been reading a lot, and Courtney and I received the book of Matthew, I think, 2 weeks ago. And no disrespect to those of you of the Jewish or other faiths, whatever book you read, it's that book.
It's a long one.
And we had a chance to obviously just go through all the details and sort of condense. But I have to be honest, sometimes those of us that do this job every day, we don't even know these stories. And it's really a shame that the work that you do, sometimes because of the nature of the work, we get it. I wish we knew about this stuff because this is like the real stuff. And so if you're probably wondering, when are they going to shut up? Are they going to keep reading? We decided, in conjunction with our writer, the 13th disciple who wrote the book of Matthew, that I think it's unfair to cut stuff out wholesale, right? I mean, we could easily just say, welcome, John Smith. Thank you, John. Thank you. Get out of here. But I think many of you in this room also need to hear those stories. And so we are making sure that we are keeping it as tight as possible. But in some cases, just deal with it because it's amazing stuff. And we're going to read all of it.
Oh, okay.
And if you don't like it, that's your problem. But while we are in commercial break, I will tell you that the funniest thing I heard while I was reading this stuff was from someone behind me. As you know, you folks live in acronyms. VRT, CCV, LLP, MMD, LLJ, PPPM. And someone said behind me, that guy doesn't know what he's reading. I'll get you back later. No. A lot of acronyms. I would say, though, for next year, more Spanish, faster program. You know what I'm saying? If this thing were in Spanish, I'd have you out here in 30 minutes. But I'm just saying, I wasn't asked to do that, but I'm so happy to say Hernandez and all those other people that are here. Welcome back. Courtney, how are you?
Good, doing great, Raphael. Thanks for that.
Okay. That gave us a chance to sort of breathe a little bit. Yeah. Our next Medal of Valor. Please welcome Officer Michael Soyka. So this is January the 28th, 2021, and Officer Soyka was working undercover. Are you still undercover, sir? Are you still undercover? No. Oh, good, okay. So video the hell out of him. He was with the East District Flex team. He was driving back to roll call in an unmarked vehicle in plain clothes. And so Officer Soyka pulled up to the light there at 30th and Shadeland. Two males got out of the vehicle right next to him. I mean, just jumped out of the vehicle, and they just happened to begin shooting at each other. One of the males was in possession of an AR-15 style rifle. Officer Soyka, caught in the middle of this active shooter situation, took immediate action and fired his issued handgun from inside his vehicle, striking one of the suspects. At the time, a family member of one of the males shooting jumped out of the vehicle as well and also started shooting. Why not? So at the time that was going on, everyone involved then fled the scene in their vehicles. And so the officer, not wearing any type of body armor, he didn't stop there. He had a job to do. He followed the suspect vehicle several miles before it stopped in a neighborhood. Officer Soyka put the information out over the radio, right? To be able to assist on this run. During the investigation, it was determined that these individuals were involved in an armed disturbance at the BMV in Lawrence. They chased each other to the intersection of 30th and Shadeland, where they began shooting at each other in front of the officer. Because of his training, because of his split-second decisions, he saved a lot of lives on that day. And so on this date, Officer Soyka, for saving lives, for your exceptional heroism and your courage, IMPD is honored to present you with a Medal of Valor. Am I the next one? Our next Medal of Valor, Officer Freddie Haddad. Our Certificate of Commendation, Officers Amrital Singh and Daniel Heiser. So this is a Saturday back in July. I'm sure it was hot in Indiana. 12:44 in the afternoon, Officers Haddad and Singh and Officer Heiser, they're called to Birdwood Court to check out a disturbance, a domestic disturbance with a weapon. When they arrive, they're met by a female victim, distraught, scared, and she told the officer that she met a guy a few weeks ago online on a dating app. But she knew that after meeting this person on this app, that their first meeting at home was just not going to be a good thing. It wasn't right. So she asked him to leave and asked him, "Don't come back. Bye. Don't come back." At around 12:30, she heard a knock on the door. It was the guy. And the guy apparently was drunk. He came standing to the door with a bottle of vodka, and he had a gun in his waistband. He told the woman that they were going to engage in sexual relations. She had a daughter inside the home, 3-year-old. She asked him to leave. He would not leave. She had to get out. And fearing that she was going to be assaulted, she escaped through the bathroom window. She took her daughter with her out that window. And she ran to a neighbor's home where she called 911. The officers, they approached the home and they saw the suspect in the home. They noticed that he had a gun there in his waistband. There were commands, of course, to, drop your weapon. He kept saying to the officers, just shoot me, just kill me. That wasn't an option. That wasn't an option. The officers, after some time, keeping him distracted, were able to arrest the individual, saving his life and securing the life of that mother and that 3-year-old. So these officers showed that in relying on their training and their skills, they brought honor to themselves and to the department. So on this Friday, we congratulate Officer Haddad with a Medal of Valor and Officers Singh and Heiser with certificates of commendation.
This next group, everybody will not be able to be recorded again. This is for the Medal of Valor.
Our next Medal of Valor to Officer Michael Casper and Corey Lindley. Our certificate of commendation to Officers Casey Egan, Chad Davis, and Matthew Harris. December 10th, 2020. Officer Egan dispatched to the 2000 block of East 10th Street to investigate a female suspect who was shot on a occupied Indigo bus. Now, the officer was unable to find the bus initially, but as you can imagine, other calls began to come in. Officer Egan located the female who was armed and pointing the handgun and through the windshield of his marked patrol car. He immediately and partially exited that vehicle, pointing his firearm at the female, and of course gave commands to the female to drop the weapon. Drop the weapon. The female began running towards the driver's side of the police vehicle, coming dangerously close to Officer Egan, all while pointing that firearm. Officer Egan was able to get out the vehicle, park, create distance between himself and the suspect by moving backwards. And he continued to point his firearm at the subject and continued to give those loud verbal commands, as well as speak to those on the radio, giving them updates. Officers Chad David and Corey Lindley and Matthew Harris and Michael Casper responded to the area to assist the officer. This female was not giving up. And she was ready to shoot on that Indigo bus. Shortly after arriving, Officer Casper deployed his less than lethal projectile launcher. Officer Casper took an unofficial leadership role and began to give direction to the other officers on how to get this done, how to wrap this up as safely as possible. Officer Lindley quickly ran to where the female was laying on the ground, partially on the porch of a residence, and still armed with that handgun. A safe arrest was made. No one was injured. These officers went above and beyond to keep the citizens of Indianapolis safe. And for this, Impd on this Friday and every day thanks them for their service. Officers Karp and Lindley with a Medal of Valor. Officers Egan, Davis, and Matthew and Harris with a certificate of commendation.
Our next Medal of Valor goes to Sergeant John Perkins, Sergeant Clinton Streeter, Officers Lee Rabenstein, Evan Mathies, William Wogan, Gunnar Gossett, and Dwayne Mills. And a certificate of appreciation goes to IEMS Thames medics Shane Hardwick and Corey Cochran. Back on July 18th, IMPD North District officers Gunnar Gossett and Dwayne Mills responded to a 911 call from a woman who stated her intoxicated nephew was on the porch and had a gun. Officers arrived and they found the man on the porch with the gun in his lap. The officers tried to talk to the man before he raised both of his hands, holding a gun in each, and began firing at the officers. The officers returned fire and the man ran into the house. Then officers requested assistance from the IMPD SWAT team. The SWAT team came with the Crisis Negotiations Unit, who contacted the suspect over the phone, and they spent hours trying to peacefully resolve the situation. SWAT ultimately entered the home with ballistic shields to locate and arrest the suspect. While clearing the home, Officer Mathies found the suspect hiding in a closet. He gave several commands for him to put his hands up and surrender. When he wouldn't, the officer and several others in this group came up with a plan to use less lethal impact munition to get the suspect to comply. They hit the suspect in the leg, and the suspect then pointed a handgun out of the closet toward the officers and began shooting. Officers returned fire until the suspect stopped shooting. Once officers knew the man was no longer a threat, they moved in to apprehend him and immediately, again, began rendering aid. The officers entered the home, knew they were dealing with an armed, violent suspect, yet they still entered. They stood their ground and they fought to protect their own lives and the lives of fellow officers. For their courage in an extremely dangerous situation, IMPD is honored to present them with the Medal of Valor. And for their willingness to enter the home where gunfire erupted and to render aid, IMPD is also proud to present IEMS Thames medics with a certificate of appreciation.
Mi gente, my next Medal of Honor recipients, names that I could easily say, didn't have to rehearse these. I was like, finally, yet again. Please welcome, that's okay. I was just told that the officers may not speak Spanish. You will today. Your abuela and your abuelo will be like, oh, mi hijo. I got you. We're the same height too, so he has to be Latino. Okay, that's a different thing. Serious people, we're back. Welcome back. The Medal of Honor to Officer Keith Ortega and Detective Roberto Sanchez. They may never hear that again in their lifetime, but today, you may call them Keith Ortega and Roberto Sanchez. Let me take you back to November the 14th of 2020. This is 6380 West 34th Street, and the officer and the detective, they were alerted to an individual being escorted out of a business. While the security inside the business was escorting the individual out, a disturbance erupted. Detective Sanchez and Ortega, they observed the suspect run to a parking lot out in the lot, to a car out in the lot. The suspect emerged from the vehicle with a gun and pointed the gun at the crowd now gathered in front of that business. Detective Sanchez began to give verbal commands for the suspect to drop the weapon. Drop the weapon. Detective Sanchez saw the suspect manipulate the sight on the gun, and both Detective Sanchez and Officer Ortega, they fired at the suspect. The suspect, though, ran away, and Ortega and Sanchez pursued the suspect to complete their jobs. They were able to arrest the suspect on High School Road. Both of these gentlemen displayed exceptional heroism upon being confronted with an armed and dangerous adversary. They voluntarily chose to step in between numerous citizens that were outside of that business being threatened by the armed suspect, and they took action. Their actions, no doubt, prevented injuries on that November the 14th. It is for these reasons that IMPD, on this day, honors Officers Ortega and Sanchez with a Medal of Valor.
We next honor Officer Ryan Dean Hart and Sergeant Corey Mims with the Medal of Valor. And the resolution in this story is one that you just wish would spread countrywide and tell the story of how police officers act on the job every day. Back on February 20th, dispatchers told officers a GPS tracker was on the move in the area of East Raymond Street and Perkins, and that a Family Dollar on Raymond had just been robbed at gunpoint. A detective continued to update officers on the location of the GPS, indicating that suspect was on foot. Officer Dean Hart located the possible suspect, but he fled after seeing the officer. Officer Dean Hart chased him through multiple yards and over several fences while running through almost a foot of snow. I know. During the chase, the suspect began dropping money from the robbery, and that indicated that this man was the robbery suspect. Officer Dean Hart continued to give loud verbal commands to the suspect, who eventually slowed down. Officer Dean Hart deployed his taser on the suspect, but it was ineffective. The suspect pulled out a handgun and stood back up. Officer Dean Hart immediately took cover behind a house and pulled out his handgun. The suspect ignored commands to drop the gun and continued to run. Officer Dean Hart saw Sergeant Corey Mims running toward the suspect and could hear Sergeant Mims' commands. Sergeant Mims quickly holstered his gun and tackled the suspect to the ground, and then he bear hugged the suspect while laying underneath him. Then Officer Dean Hart comes in, and he was able to put his weight on the suspect, get control, and then the other responding officers were then able to handcuff this guy. Now here's the part that just stands out to me. Sergeant Mims assisted the suspect to his feet and calmly told the suspect to control his breathing. This suspect was only 16 years old. These officers played important roles in the arrest of the suspect, and for this reason, IMPD is honored to present you with the Medal of Valor.
Our next Medal of Valor to Officers Herman Means III, Ryan Russell, and Julian Hernandez, who for me is Julian Hernandez. I'm just saying. May the 31st of this year, Officers Means, Russell, and Hernandez, they respond to 2844 North Benning Street. Family disturbance. The disturbance involved a mental, emotional juvenile. It should be noted that Officer Russell had been at that situation before. He was well aware of this family. It was that house, on that street, in that neighborhood. The 14-year-old in question is a big boy. I'm a little man. This is a big boy. 14 years old, 5'9", 160 pounds. Inside the home, officers encountered a highly agitated, mentally emotional young man. Officer Russell attempted to engage the juvenile using de-escalation techniques. He wasn't having it. Wasn't having it. He had a knife in his hand. During the event, the juvenile flailed that knife, ignoring all commands to drop it. Just wouldn't. Officers on the scene continued to, of course, display exceptional poise. They used their training on this 14-year-old. They were able to end the situation safely. The juvenile's father went on to say that, in his words, quote, "The officers showed a lot of restraint and not a lot of force with his son." And went on to say, Thank you for handling this incident so well. The father even singled out Officer Russell, especially Officer Russell, because he had been to that home before. And he appreciated the care and the compassion which the officers exhibited on what could have been a very dangerous evening there on Benning Street. And for all of their efforts today, let's congratulate Officers Mims, Russell, and Hernandez with a Medal of Valor.
Our next Medal of Valor goes to Officer Patrick Scott, Marco Zaragoza, and Joel Kane. These three officers responded to the Autumn Trails apartment complex on a report of a man who was having a mental episode, but he also had a gun. The dispatchers told the officers the male was walking up and down the street and had already fired at least one shot into the air. The man approached the officers holding the firearm. The officers gave loud, clear commands for him to drop the gun and get on the ground. He ignored those commands and continued to approach the officers, pointing the gun at them. All three officers fired shots and stopped the threat. Officers Scott, Kane, and Zaragoza were able to organize a tactical plan while following training and state law. They stopped an active shooter from harming anyone else in our community while also risking their own lives. For these actions, IMPD is proud to present you with the Medal of Valor.
Our last round of Medal of Valor awards on this Friday to Officers Pepper Eldridge, Andrew Guzman, David Loyal, Joseph Maxey. A certificate of commendation to Tupe Peko and David Visa. May the 5th, 2020. The officers were dispatched to the 2000 block of Wood Glen Drive. The report was of a burglary in progress. Dispatch advised the officers that two unknown suspects were trying to break the windows and the door of the caller's apartment. Officers Eldridge and Guzman, they arrived on the scene and they immediately were confronted by a subject armed with a rifle, which the suspect began to fire at the officers. They remained calm as one could be during the exchange, and soon were joined by officers Loyal, Maxey, Peko, and Visa. Although injured, that suspect, he continued to fire his weapon. Officers Visa and Peko, they made sure that they were not ambushed from the rear, since there was a report of a second subject, as you may recall, involved in this robbery. Officers Eldridge's calm demeanor while delivering information to radio traffic was paramount in getting back up to the officers to the scene and would put them in a safer situation. The actions of Officer Eldridge and Guzman during the initial stage of this dangerous incident helped protect the lives of his innocent residents. Help protect their lives as well. On this day, these officers are all being recognized for their professionalism, their bravery during a rapidly evolving critical incident. And for that, the department honors you, Officers Eldridge and Guzman, Loyal, and Maxey with a Medal of Valor, and Officers Peko and Visa with a certificate of commendation.
Okay, and finally, the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart Award is awarded to an officer who is killed or suffers serious bodily injury while confronting or attempting to apprehend an armed or fleeing individual in the performance of his or her duties under honorable circumstances. We have Officer Abdesamed Badaya getting the Purple Heart. And the Medal of Bravery for Officer Anthony Johnson. On August 11th, officers Johnson and Badaya responded to a domestic disturbance call on Bayview Club Drive. As Officer Badaya was walking around outside of the apartment, he was struck by gunfire from someone inside the apartment. Officer Badaya calmly stated over the radio that he was shot. And I think this next part makes him exceptional. After he gets shot, he sees children that are running in the area, and he saw that they were running out of the residence, and he helped them to safety. Officer Johnson quickly ran to his teammate's side to provide aid. He got him to safety and provided a tourniquet to Officer Badaya's injured leg. Both officers held lethal coverage over the residence until backup arrived. For their bravery and quick action despite personal danger, IMPD is honored to present Officer Badaya with the Purple Heart Medal and Officer Johnson with the Medal of Bravery.
Our next recipient of the Purple Heart and Medal of Honor, Officer Elizabeth Iverson, and Medal of Valor, Officers Brett Lauerman and Keith Shelton. Remember, I have work to do, so just stand by. So this is back May 29th, this year, a couple of months ago. At about 3:40 in the afternoon, Officer Iverson and Lauerman, they're dispatched that there's a report of a person shot. While en route to the address, officers were given a description of the suspect vehicle. As the officers approached the intersection of 62nd and Michigan Road, they noticed this green Chevy Trailblazer matching that given description. Officer Lauerman got on the radio, told dispatch, "We got this, we see it, there it is." Not those exact words, but I just cut 10 minutes. Officer Iverson was right behind Officer Lauerman, and as the suspect vehicle passed her, the suspect fired several shots at her. The shot struck Officer Iverson's police vehicle as well. She immediately got on the radio and informed control of her location and that she had been shot at. In spite of being shot, Officer Iverson and Officer Lauerman displayed exceptional courage when they began to pursue that suspect. And that pursuit, it continued south on Michigan Road to 30th Street, where Officer Shelton was able to assist. All the officers continued to pursue the suspect until it came to a stop on the 1600 block of West 30th Street. Once there, the suspect began to fire multiple shots at the officers. Officer Iverson exited her vehicle and positioned herself to return fire. Remember, she'd been shot. And during this, she was shot, of course, twice in the leg, left leg, and once in the chest, and once in the right arm. Did I get those all right, ma'am? Yeah. Because once you get shot, you got to, it happened, right? Officers Shelton and Lauerman exited their vehicles and they returned fire, striking the suspect. Once the shooting subsided, Officer Shelton learned that Officer Iverson had sustained a gunshot wound to her arm and also began to assist in applying that life-saving tourniquet. Other officers arrived. They loaded Officer Iverson into the police vehicle, and off she went to the hospital. And she's doing good. These officers, like you, every day, yet again, demonstrated exceptional courage in an extremely dangerous situation. And for this reason, on this Friday, IMPD is honored to present Officer Elizabeth Iverson with the Purple Heart and Medal of Valor, and Officers Brett Lauerman and Keith Shelton a Medal of Valor.
And a Purple Heart and Medal of Valor for Officer William Fulton. Medal of Valor for Officer Theodore Howlett III and Officer Noah Ryan. Back on May 31st, Southeast District Officers William Fulton, Theodore Howlett, and Noah Ryan responded to a disturbance between a man and a woman on South Colorado Avenue. Officers found a woman shaken and an active situation happening in the back of the home. Officers believe the woman was being held against her will at knife point by a man in the house. Officers decided to immediately enter that house. As the three officers moved toward the disturbance, a man with a large knife abruptly came out of a side room and was then between Officers Fulton and Howlett. The man immediately charged toward Officer Fulton while armed with a knife, and Officer Fulton fired his gun once when the suspect was in arm's reach. Officer Fulton was struck by a bullet in the lower portion of his bulletproof vest, and he was taken to Methodist Hospital for treatment. The three officers ensured safety of everyone in the house, including the woman previously held against her will at knife point. For their heroic and selfless actions during an incident where lives were absolutely in danger, the IMPD is honored to present Officer Fulton with a Purple Heart and Medal of Valor, and Officers Howlett III and Ryan with a Medal of Valor.
It has been a great morning. And we want to just thank you again for being here. I believe this is the largest crowd we've had in my 5 years. So hopefully we can fill the place again next year, because it is worth doing so. I had the opportunity back in September, I believe, to MC the COPS event, which is the concerns of police officers. Those are the officers who have lost someone in the line of duty. And you know, as a member of the press, my opinion does not matter, and nor should it matter. My job is just to do my job and do the best possible with facts. And we can always argue about what those facts look like. You could always criticize me for the storyline or whatever, but hopefully they're factual. But what I told that group, since I am on vacation and you are on my time, that I hope that at the end of the day, in a world where crazy exists, that you don't believe the narrative, that you are not supported. And I believe that throughout our state, throughout our country, people, they get it. So just remember that sometimes crazy is the loudest voice in the room, but crazy is not always accurate. And so sometimes we get just sort of lost in the crazy because it's the shiniest object in the room. Just keep that in mind. I think there's a lot of folks that you know respect what you do, not because I say so, because it just happens to be a fact. And we can't lose facts in our country, that some things are just happen to be true. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service. On behalf of all of my colleagues at WRTV and our other colleagues at the other stations and the newspaper that covered
Fox 59.
Them too. Courtney, I was getting there. I was gonna get there. You have your own time. Thank you. Muchas gracias a todos. Be safe and have a good day. Now, wait a minute, no, because she wants her time. Please welcome Courtney Crown with Fox 59.
Oh, thank you, Raphael. Putting me on the spot a little bit. I thought we were handing it over to Janae, but I just... We are in a moment.
Friday in Indianapolis, so
Yes.
when you look at your clock, the sun will be out. You probably feel like it's Sunday, but it's not. Again, thank you to all that put this together, right? Because a lot of hard work goes into this. It may have felt long to you, and that's okay. There's a lot to celebrate. And so sometimes you just need the time to say, that's some good stuff.
Yes,
Right, Courtney?
yes, absolutely. And seriously, everybody, I know that it has caught, I can't, just to be candid with you, I cannot imagine what you go into every day and what you have seen over and over again this year. But there's nearly 1,700 of you, and I just hope that there continues to be that many and many more. You're the best of the best. I appreciate everything that you do for our community, and I hope that no matter what firefight that you get into, that you continue to feel the support. And families, just thank you again for letting us share them, because I know that when you're a family member, you don't get to keep all of them. You have to share them with the community, and for that, we really appreciate it. You're in your prayers, you're in our prayers, and you're in our hearts, and we truly appreciate you.
Let's give another round of applause for Courtney Crown and Raphael Sanchez for coming here today. It saves you guys from having to listen to us the entire time. We want to thank everybody for coming here today, but most importantly, it's an honor to be in the same location with all these recipients of all these wonderful awards. Let's give all the recipients of the awards a round of applause. We also would like to take a moment and thank the following members of the Honor Award Committee who spent countless hours reviewing each and every submission. Officer Jeffrey Patterson, Officer Lauren Kramer, Lieutenant Brad Gosnell, Officer Jared Allen, Officer Patrick Scott, Officer Russell Sibley, Detective Dustin Loeb, Officer DeJour Mercer, Captain Richard Ray, Lieutenant Andrew Rawlinson, Officer Charles Parker, and Sergeant Tiffany Rand. I believe Lieutenant Gosnell's in the back if anyone wants to have a word with him afterwards. We want to also thank the Central Library for allowing us to use this facility. We've been using this facility for a number of years, and they're always very generous about it. I want to also thank all the friends and families who came out to support each one of the recipients today and to honor these officers and citizens. Putting this program together is not an easy task. It takes long hours, a lot of mistakes that are made, and a lot of redoing of paperwork and working until late nights of midnight last night. So join me in a round of applause for Officer Simone Burris for her hard work in organizing this event. A couple little side notes before we conclude our services. Following this ceremony, there will be some light refreshments in the Riley room upstairs and to the right. And also, any of the officers that received one of the medals after the conclusion, we ask that you please go over to the double doors where you'll receive also your pin for your uniform. I'd like to call Chaplain Arnold to the podium for the benediction, and after that, that will conclude our service for today.
Shall we stand and bow our heads? Heavenly Father, we have been honored to hear the awesome stories of bravery and honor that these men and women, citizens and officers alike, have laid on the line. And now, Lord, today we remember another great warrior in Psalms 144 that said, Lord, teach our hands to war and our fingers to fight. And we ask this, Lord, in your precious name today. We trust you to go with each one of our officers, protect them. We trust you to go to each one of their families, put your hand upon them as they honor our officers. And we ask this in your holy name. Amen.